Somebody. Oh, man, hate that. Hate that. But I appreciate finding out. Hey, Cam. Can you hear me, Kamala?
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Great.
Okay.
Great. I was wondering, how are you?
Good.
Oh, I know you've been getting jokes all day, right?
Why?
Because of you, because of your name.
Um, I have been called the Black Elite. Oh, I have gotten slammed, but I'm up for it. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
whatever.
I know you don't mind.
So I'm in the Black Elite.
Is that so?
I'm not black anymore. Did you know that?
Oh, I had no idea. Maybe they need to check out
Because
your
I have
ancestry.
one parent who's part Indian and part white, so I'm no longer black.
Oh my goodness.
So I had to ask my Facebook counterpart, will we still have this conversation if she was black? I mean, if she was a man, like why is her genealogy such an issue for you? Like, he literally was like, well, all of you all who are part of the Black Elite, I'm not gonna let the Black Elite tell me about no policies. I was like, oh
Man,
my
please.
God.
Man.
I said, well, your daughter went to a city that you went to Poly. That is an elite school.
In our book, yeah. Yeah, interestingly enough, that is so true.
So I don't know. I said, so otherwise, if I'm not dark and I don't wear dashiki every day and my child doesn't go to a private school, I probably would be okay. I might be, well received about now.
Mhm. Well, just on general principles, you African American sister, you black, especially since all your commitments are certainly consistent with that choice and that.
I reminded him that I'm gonna need a new definition. Well, that is really a topic for Facebook. The new definition of what it is to be African American. I think that is a discussion that the community must have, because now that we have her going into the White House, that is the discussion that the non-black elite, because I didn't know I had that kind of money, but the non-black elite who say in order for you to be black, you
Oh my
cannot be
gosh.
part of a sorority. You cannot be part of like these like I think that the basis was that, they see us as, um, like, once you belong to a sorority or some of these other advocacy organizations, you become part of the black elite. So that was more of a discussion than her moderate policies.
I think we have to be careful not to allow ourselves to get distracted with other people's issues with us,
Well,
and just
that was
and
no, and you're right. I think you can't, but that's complaining. Like, like
yeah.
that we don't have any. We used to not tear each other down publicly, and I wish we would get back to that space.
Yeah.
But to see him tear her down publicly because she's light skinned, like he ran it down. She's light skinned. She's in a sorority. She went to the elitist Howard University. I said, "Oh my
Isn't that
God."
crazy? Isn't that
I said,
crazy?
I said, so going to an HBCU is elitist.
How are you? Exactly. Hey, Lori.
Hey, Rev.
How are you, Lori? Please meet, and this is no pun intended, please meet Kamala Harris.
All right, another Kamala Harris.
Hi, Lori.
This is Lori Cardenas. She's speaking from your past. You're talking to her from her future. She's on the West Coast. You're on the East Coast.
It's a great season for me, obviously.
Clearly, for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Lori is one of my sisters in the struggle. My sister, soul sister, in the struggle for years. Kamala's childhood sister. We grew up together in the church, we've been bonded at the heart and the spirit for most of our lives. And so we talk about stuff, and I know she'd have something to say about today. Her name notwithstanding, of course.
Of course.
Of course. She is her own woman in her own right. So we won't play with that because I will hear about it later. So
Sure you
won't
will.
even go there. And I appreciate so much your willingness to be a part of what I hope will be an engaging conversation.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. I enjoyed talking about our future politics, having worked in the political system. Like this is like history in the making.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna run and get some water real quick. I'll be right back.
I'm like excited just because it's history in the making.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually wanted her to run, for president. I was behind her for that. But, I'm behind you now as well.
Yeah, I wanted her. Well, I supported. I actually, one of my best friends said to me, she said, "Oh, you called this." And I was like, she's a strategist. Like when you're a politician, you have to be a strategist. So she knew. I figured he would pick her. I had no doubts that he would not. Like if you weigh out all of the other contenders, he really was not. He didn't really have a choice.
Correct. Because that gave the spark.
And he raised millions of dollars
in that one day.
In one day. Well, I contributed his millions.
Hey, Anthony.
Me too.
Contributed the millions yesterday.
Oh, he got my check. He must have gotten my check.
He got my check. He got my check yesterday.
For half of that million. Hey, Rev.
My pastor, the Reverend K.W. Toulis.
Absolutely.
How are you all?
Absolutely. Reverend Steele, Reverend Toulis. Hey, D, don't look like that. I know you've been on talk shows all day. Don't look like that. Stop playing. We know you got plenty to say. Quit playing. Boy. These are former legislator, mover and pusher, both pastor and legislator here in the state of Georgia. Has been a key pusher of the most recently ratified hate crimes law, even though she had to hold her nose while doing it because a whole lot of funky stuff went on. It was crazy, but she helped make it happen. It is the stuff and funk of the American moment.
Right.
And that's where we are. So grateful to have Reverend Steele, Tacoma, civil rights. He's in AME Church as well, Reverend D. And also on the front line of working, Lord, for so many years, and even now with respect to police brutality. K.W. Toulis, you know him, that's everybody's pastor, National Action Network, West Coast, chilling out on the beach somewhere and doing his thing. But don't let the smooth smile fool you. We'll punch in your face in a minute. And Lori's just, like I said to my sister Kamala's a warrior, street soldier, community organizer, down with labor for the working person, always on the front line and a fighter. And of course, Kamala, who is a breast cancer awareness educator, survivor, wannabe preacher. She gonna get there one day or another. She's been my sister forever, AME sister, and we've laughed and cried together. Grateful to have the Dr. Lester Ajay, classmate, Ajay McCoy, classmate, president, 13th president, in fact, of Clinton. My God, just honored to have the Black man on, and just looking forward to just what I hope will be part of a robust conversation. Now, I'm just going to do a disclaimer real quick. I need y'all to give me about 2 minutes. I need to go in and get the Facebook feed going again. For some reason, I'm having technical challenges. And y'all know as bootstrappers, we doing all this ourselves. We know what we got to do. You know, I'm in the major micropolis of Douglas, Georgia, and so I have a whole lot of love and a whole lot of support, but sometimes I don't have a lot of help other than the Holy Ghost and you all. So I just got to do what I have to do. Give me a second to go make this work. I'm going to come in with a kind of an opening statement. And then I'm going to ask you all to sort of introduce yourselves and let's kind of get at it, this Kamala conversation. We do have just a couple of preemptive updates. Reverend Steele has an update, and I have an update with All Eyes on Statesboro, the brother who defended himself and is in jail unnecessarily and unjustly. And we just want to do a couple of updates with that, and then we'll get into our main conversation. So I want to thank you all so much for your patience as you begin to think about questions like, what does this Kamala Harris moment mean, and this Kairos moment, this intersectionality of economic, pandemic, ethnic chaos, issues with the schools coming back in and coming to an election cycle that probably has one of the most profound implications in U.S. history. And so you're a part of what I consider a very important conversation, and I want to thank you. Give me 1 second and let me do this real quick as you begin to kind of pull together your thoughts and ideas. I look to have a couple of other folk who are coming on, a sister who is here in Douglas, and I think that would be it. Robert Scott, also Morehouse brother, who should be on shortly as well, and hopefully we'll be on in a second. Thank you all. Just give me 1 second. Blessings to you. All right. As I finish this, so let me ask you all, just to kind of, in your conversations today, what have you heard? What kind of things have you heard about Kamala's the announcement? What kind of the spectrum of conversation that you've been privy to, if I might ask?
I'm very concerned about Black men's response. I think that has troubled me. I think more progressive African-American men have took the stance that they're going to support her, and I've seen that, but I've seen a lot of African-American men who have outwardly said that they will not, they are really teetering on not voting because of this election. So I think that has bothered me and concerned me about, like, what is really at stake in this election. The second thing is, I think that most of us understand what's at stake, and really want us to really start having some unified and mobilizing conversations than tearing her down and tearing down the ticket. So I think that that's pretty much the themes I've heard so far.
Mm-hmm. Others of you? Any other impressions you all have been privy to?
Pastor, I think similar to what Sister Green just mentioned, I also have been concerned at what seems to be hypercriticism from brothers and others. It's not just men. I mean, there are women also that have fallen to the same kind of trap, and this somehow racial political purity scale that we put on, people. I think it's unrealistic and unhelpful in the moment. And we know, I don't think it'll be a long time before we can find a candidate that reaches the ultimate scale.
Right.
Barack Obama wasn't close to it, but somehow we fashioned him into being the next, hero. and dramatic. But I think we found a way to get the most, to maximize what it represented, and and I think that's been the genius of African Americans. We've never had it perfect, but we've learned how to maximize every single situation that we've been presented with. And I think this is a golden opportunity to push the ball down the field. This might be the last great opportunity we have for a long time.
I appreciate that. Brother Robert Scott has just joined us from Atlanta. We appreciate very much Robert and Scott and I, as well as Dr. Lester McCormick and I go back to Morehouse College. And actually, Robert, also, we go back to Baltimore, Maryland. We go back to Poly. We go back to high school.
I'm taking this off.
And our sister, our Western sister, smiling because she, Kamala, was a graduate of Western High.
Do great school, great Baltimore.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm just going to get it going here and just go with what we have because for whatever reasons, we're just going to get it going. Terica, that is a resident here of, she's an educator here in Douglas, Georgia. She also happens to be our minister of music. And we've had engaging conversations on a number of topics and issues. And I find that we contrast in some ways, and yet we are in concert in some ways with respect to our perspective. So I thought that she would be also an important voice in our conversation today. So I'm just going to go ahead with what I have. I'm not going to worry about it, and just go ahead and be the bootstrapper that we are. And let's get it rolling. So I just want to, first of all, thank you all for availing yourselves to participate in what I hope will be an informative and robust conversation among us, reflecting the wide spectrum of perspectives that we've been a part of and we have developed in our own conversations, our own self-talk, and perhaps what we might agree is an important Kairos moment in the history of this country and in the history of the struggle history of African Americans, people of African descent, I like to say. And so we are at I might even suggest at a point of intersectionality in terms of the different dynamics of economics, of inter-ethnic chaos, of political polarism, and class struggle and strife, if you will. All of those create, as it were, kind of mirror almost what was happening as a young senator named Barack Obama was beginning to come onto the scene. And many were beginning to fathom the possibility of an African-American president. And I'm almost remembering what Barack Obama said to the late, great John Lewis, "I'm here because of you." And so some might be able to say that in a way, Barack Obama's ascension to where he was is almost, what are we talking, 13 years later? 12 years later is eventuated what we see now taking place as even a possibility given the constant cycle of the same kinds of Kairos moments, if you will. And so in the midst of, saying her name, Sandra Bland, saying his name, George Floyd, her name, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Andres Guardado, and the sister whose name I'm trying to come to, was just murdered, who was a service, the sister who was in Texas, who was murdered by a fellow officer. She was enlisted in the Army, I believe, and they found her body. The brother murdered her Latina sister, beautiful Latina sister. And so in the midst of all of these deaths and all of these things that have been happening that have rocked us to the core of who we are as human beings, we have the name of Kamala Harris, who's been on the horizon and in our orbit, but in the midst, she's become sort of the geo center, if you will, the solar center, if you will, of our conversation. Many of us who are in California, and I'm only definitely speaking to like Lori and Anthony, knew her as a district attorney, and Reverend Toulis I've known her for years. We've been in struggle one way or another in terms of her career, watched her ascension, watched her kind of go from what we've considered to have some real challenges with some of her positions to a place where she's actually now where she is. And so we've had the opportunity to watch her trajectory and her development. And there's still seemingly an evolution ongoing, and as it is with all of us. So with that, I want to just express gratitude for the presence of my sisters and brothers in struggle over time and in our relationships. Reverend D. Hawkins Hagler, Ms. Yvette Terrica, Ms. Lori Cardenas, Ms. Kamala A. Lark, and I am saying it like that, my sister, and don't be mad at me. And I'm anticipating Dr. Nanazi Jackson from San Francisco, Reverend K.W. Toulis, Reverend Dr. Leslie J. McCorn, Brother Mr. Robert Scott, and Reverend Anthony Steele. Thank you all for being a part of this conversation, and thank you for availing yourself to what we hope will be something that will be informative and thought-provoking. I consider you all as among those who are critical thinkers and yet also strategically engaged. And that's one of the things we all have in common. We don't just talk the talk, but we like to walk the walk also. And so I'm honored to have you all. And I want to just ask you, if I might ask you to just hold on a second and let us kind of update you on a couple of the justice issues we have. I want Reverend Steele to update us on the issue of Tacoma, if you will, with Tacoma, what's happening with that. And then we're going to update you on the situation here in Georgia with all eyes on Statesboro, and then we're going to hit it. Reverend Steele.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. Just in Tacoma, we're still following what's called the Manny Ellis situation, where he was killed by the police officers here prior to George Floyd, about a month prior to him. Same situation. They choked him out, stayed on his neck, and it's caught on camera. However, it's been kicked around in the state, and now the governor still has it. What we do have locally now is that we have a great dialogue now with the city manager. In this city of Tacoma, we have what's called a weak mayor. So this particular system causes the mayor not to be able to fire policemen that kill its citizens, nor can the city council do anything either. The city manager actually has to do it. And with that, now we are engaged fully with the new collective bargaining agreement for the police. And so what I now have is the actual contract, and what we're starting to do is collect collective bargaining agreements around the country, so that we can also compare them, so that we can also scour them, and then begin to give resource throughout the country as to how we engage not only police brutality, but and not only police conduct, but how we actually engage justice, so that when a policeman kills someone, then they can be prosecuted, but their collective bargaining agreements give them actually a lot of insulation from any type of prosecution. So that's the newest thing that's going on in Tacoma right now. And I'm always inviting others to if you have a copy of your collective bargaining agreement in your region, send it to us, and we want to share them. The pastor@allenchurch.org, that you just send it to me, and I'll send you mine. And we're trying to build a network of understanding the collective bargaining agreements, because that is what insulates all of the policemen around this country.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And so what we need to do is keep following up with you. If you'll send me whatever links and whatever ways we can be engaged, I appreciate that very much. I'm in receipt of the information related to the Marcus Wilson case, all eyes on Statesboro. It says, in essence, the family is grateful and thankful to have been granted a bond hearing on August 18th. That's next week at 8:30 a.m. So they asked for prayer, that they be lifted in prayer at this first hurdle in the fight for justice. All eyes on Statesboro. Also, several students from Georgia Southern University are scheduled to have a peaceful march in downtown Statesboro on this Saturday, the 16th. And as I learned specifics in terms of dates, in terms of the time, I'll make that available. Also, the bond hearing, she says, will be live streaming. And so we appreciate very much that particular update. So I ask your prayers. If you have any suggestions in terms of ways we can really impact the situation with All Eyes on Statesboro, we'd appreciate it. In essence, the young man was at the Taco Bell. He happens to have had he's African American, European American girlfriend. Some European American young men didn't like what they saw. They started harassing the brother, and they're in the truck. He's in a vehicle. Of course, they, running up on him and trying to run him off the road. And he takes out. They don't realize he's the wrong one. He's trying to defend himself. He fires his gun. Unfortunately, one of the occupants of the truck was killed, and unfortunately, she lost her life. She was in the truck, kind of with all of that. And unfortunately, the way the police report reads, it suggests that they were the victims of a drive-by shooting. So the law enforcement had already framed it in a way that made it look like he was the provocateur. They didn't believe him, of course. And so now he's been in jail since the end of June, all through July, most of July. And they tried to have a bond hearing, and then some shenanigans went on. It was really crazy because two other young men who were witnesses from the truck were not tested before entering into the courthouse some kind of way. And just because the two of them tested positive for COVID, suddenly the whole court annex had to be shut down. Ooh. And so that just negated the whole proceeding. And then, of course, the judge went on vacation for the rest of the month. So the young man had to be, you know what I'm saying? It's just like more of the same. This is 2020 and 1920. It's so surreal. Nevertheless, the family remains undaunted. He has tremendous community-wide support. I think they realize, again, they messed with the wrong person. And so I think that we'll prevail. So I just wanted to give you that update. I want to thank you for your prayers. And if you see anything, All Eyes on Statesboro, we'll be streaming both the bond hearing. And if I'm able to go to Statesboro on Saturday, I'll stream the march and rally there as well. Let me kind of go into our conversation, our Kamala conversation. Again, thank you for your patience. Let me be a gentleman, if you don't mind, gentlemen, and go to the sisters initially and kind of ask my sisters. Let me not tease my sister Kamala and not mess with her name too much. But let me ask you, what has it been like to hear this? Joe Biden has suggested that all young African American girls and girls of color can look up and say, "Oh, I can be anything I want to be." Your perspective on what you experienced when you heard the news.
I think for me, it was just a magical moment. If I would have thought that this was 20 years ago, I probably would have said we would never have this day. And I think for me, in the midst of COVID, in the midst of racial tension, in the midst of the clown in charge, it was just a magical moment. And I agree with the fact that it is so needed. Like, this is just, the stars are lining up. And I believe that while we have many views and perspectives about what her record is, I still think that she's the appropriate choice at this time. And I think that she can hold her own, which is what we need. And I think that for me as an African-American woman, I don't know that Joe could have made that statement and I found it to be reassuring. But I think if she made that statement to say this is a magical moment for African-American women and girls of color, I would have been all and we just have to take that Joe is going to have comments, and we let him have comments, and hopefully he has a group of people who will advise him. But obviously, I mean, I stayed happy the whole day in the midst of everything that's going on. It was just a magical moment. I literally, I'm gonna be very honest, I don't think that I got that excited about Hillary. I voted for Hillary, but I overwhelmingly got my cards out and said, I'm going to give. And even with President Obama, it took me a little while to give, to like support it. But I overwhelmingly pulled out at my cards and said, I'm going to give, I'm going to rally around them. I may go to a battleground state and volunteer, which is Pennsylvania, to do some door knocking if that is going to, if we're in a COVID-19 where it's a little safer. But I'm ecstatic about this election. And it is, I literally said, it is our season. I mean, and I couldn't agree with the 100 Black men who submitted the letter and said, hey, if you don't choose an African-American woman, like there's going to be hell to pay. Wow. So I really feel like it's our season to clean up house. And I'm really going to use that terminology because for the most part, the house is broken substantially. Right. And so there's going to be a lot of work that needs to happen. And I feel like she can definitely do that with the support of people around her and around him.
Absolutely. Let me go to the West Coast, Lori Cardenas.
I was elated. I was on top of the world. I was supposed to be doing Zoom calls for work. I was not listening to those people. And I believe that Black women, in a sense, have been vindicated. We have been the backbone of the Democratic Party for decades, and looked over for many, many years. I believe, as my sister said, it's our time. It is our time. I know there are a lot of naysayers around Kamala, but what kind of bothers me is that we as Black people, we want to ascend, we want to do better, get to better places. And when one of us do, then here we go tearing her down.
Crabs in the barrel.
And, you know, I was proud of my pastor, the Reverend K.W. Toulis, because yes, I know, you know, he's never been a fan, but he was the first one to put out yesterday, stop it.
Stop the hate. Stop the hate.
Stop it. We have to move forward. This is the ticket we must get behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm giddy.
Absolutely. Reverend Hagler, where were you today? How did you experience all this as a legislator, as a activist, as a critical thinker, talk show commentator? What was kind of in your orbit of thought and perspective?
Today or yesterday?
Oh, you answered the way you can, sis. Whatever.
Okay, so
I know it's evolving continually.
It evolves. Yeah. So I was with Kamala out the gate. So I've been giving money to her from when she first started running, her and Cory Booker, because my default is always Black. And even if I don't think you are the best Black candidate, I'm still with the Black candidate. So everyone knew my position. It was Kamala first because I'm a Black woman, and then it was Cory Booker, and everybody else had to fall someplace in line. So, and I stood by that. And it's just so ironic now that everybody's talking all this crazy stuff. So today I had to put out a little Facebook post of some stuff because everybody's so woke now. Everybody just so woke and something's wrong with Kamala. And I was like, I need all y'all woke people to take your ass back to sleep until
I saw your post.
Because we can't do this. This is not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So I'm just excited. And I mean, really, Black people, Black women have, and I've heard it from both of the other women, you know, we have been the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. We have kept this entire country together. Question. And so it is our time. And if I hear one more person say she is not Black, How would you know that? If anybody stop her on internet, she's black. That she is a black woman. Period. She is black. I mean, come on, really. I
Yes,
mean,
sir. Yes, ma'am.
You know
She
that
can't help
bothers
that.
me too.
she can't help that her, you know, her daddy got off the boat, his family got off the boat before they made it over to America.
Name one that hasn't.
Crazy stuff
still
I have
part of
ever
that
heard in my
diaspora.
life. And so we got to be vigilant and we got to make sure we shut that stuff down. We don't need to give Trump and Pence any talking points. Now you can critique policy, you can critique some of the things of the past, but what you cannot do is criticize the individual. And I don't know a prosecutor in America that has not put somebody in jail. So I mean, this is ridiculous. So
It is. But it is a part of the ethos of what it means to be in American politics. It is theater. It is a contradiction in motion. As Tarika would tell us your perspective, what have you been experiencing? Thank you, Reverend D.
My perspective, I'm very excited that she was selected. I knew a lot of my friends were going to be going to work on yesterday with a little bit of a swagger to them. A lot of my AKA sisters out there were going to be a little bit, you know, in the clouds. So I let them have
I'm an AKA, so I was really in the clouds. That just
I know y'all were.
I mean,
I let you have
that.
I let you have that. I was proud with you. But like some of the other comments, I'm very disappointed in some of the comments that have been made.
Sure.
All of a sudden, everybody's a researcher, a political analyst, and as a teacher, you know, and somebody who probably went to school with some of these people, you probably didn't know the 3 branches of government very well.
Uh-oh.
No, you didn't pay attention in class, but now you're a political analyst. And you can pull this article and that article, but to go after her ethnicity to say, oh, she's not black. Last time I saw Jamaican is black. They're part of the same diaspora. They just got off the boat a little quicker than some of my ancestors.
Yeah.
They went through some of the same things. I have looked at, you know, some of her record. I read an article earlier today that was from a person who was on the opposite side, was a public defender. And so when a public defender can come to your side and say, hey, this is somebody that he really needs to pay attention to. He really needs to choose this person. This was even before the nomination began, before he said anything. So when I saw that article today that a public defender came to her side,
Yes,
and thought highly of her, then I also thought it was also poignant that he kind of already, in a sense, had a relationship with her through his son. So he's known her for years, and even though they may disagree on things, and all of us disagree on things, when you can come together, you know, in unity and put all your differences aside, like we got to kind of put some differences aside. We can't go with what she did 20, 30 years ago. Right. Especially if a person has evolved.
As we all are.
You know, if you still in the same mode, but you say out your mouth that you've changed, but your actions don't line up with it. Like somebody that's out, I'm gonna put it this way, who's at Black Lives Matter Plaza, then there's a problem.
It is what it
say
is.
You on my side, but your actions don't line up with it.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Then we'll go to the gentleman. Thank you, ladies. We'll be right back. We're going to mix it up a little bit after we get this initial comment and statement. Let me go with Dr. McCorn just real quick. I know that you were very early on with the Joe Biden ticket, but when you saw what happened with, and I believe she's your sister, Asara, right? As an alpha. So you were already smiling. That's why you got that big grin from East Coast to West Coast right there. And of course, your Sarah sister there with the same similar name, of course. So give us your perspective. And let me also thankfully and humbly welcome Reverend William Smart Jr. also, who's president of SCLC in Southern California. Reverend Smart, we'll hear from you momentarily. We're just going around with our initial comments. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. McCorn.
Thank you, Dr. Logan.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. And I was not a big Kamala fan at first. In fact, when I looked at the list of potential persons, I was on the Elizabeth Warren side. And I had the great pleasure of entertaining 5 major candidates on the campus of Clinton College.
Sure.
Kamala did not make it, but our hope is she will eventually make it. We tell everybody the road to the White House comes through Clinton College. And Joe Biden is one of the people who had a town hall meeting on our campus.
Yes.
And I should back up and say I wasn't a Joe Biden fan at the beginning. But when it became clear that he was going to be the nominee, there was no doubt in my mind we were wrapped, because it was all about getting 45 out of the White House.
Oh man, yeah.
But the other thing that makes it magical in the moment is that Kamala is not an AKA, but she's an HBCU alum. And I don't think America is ready yet for what the HBCU
my goodness
community is getting ready to do. In fact, I think it's going to be very difficult for them not to win when you get the intersection of HBCU and Divine Nine coalesce. I think we're getting ready to see. I was watching the reports on the Black turnout. The peak of Black voter turnout was Barack Obama in 2012. Obama at 66%. I think you could very easily see 70% or more.
Wow.
Because I think the excitement that has been engendered, you've already heard the sisters talk about how they're pulling out their money.
Yeah, they got that $1 million check in.
And the sisters have already been the backbone of the Democratic Party. When you ratchet that up with something that they really believe in, and I do believe, we had some preliminary conversation. I do believe that the brothers are going to come around. Those that are kind of and armchair philosophers, the brothers who all of a sudden are woke and are applying the racial purity test and all of that. They're eventually going to come around. I really believe. And so I think African Americans are going to be the difference, but I also think that Kamala Harris is the kind of candidate that is what we call a crossover candidate. I think all are going to find a compelling political figure.
Thank you so much. Let me go to Reverend Steele, then we'll go to Tulis, then we'll go to Brother Scott, and then Smart, and then Dr. Nanaji Jackson is joining us from San Francisco. We're grateful to have her as well. And so we got a full panel. Dr. Nanaji, we'll be with you in a second. We're just having initial statements, and I'm trying to go in as much alphabetical order as possible so I can be fair, but I did put the sisters first because sisters are always first. I will say this, that when it comes down to it, it's always the sisters that are always hanging in there. So I appreciate very much your support and patience. Reverend Steele.
Well, I've heard it said many times, know your audience. And so you have to make sure that when we talk, we got to know who our audience is. There are different discussions around this. There's talk that we should do on social media, which has been already talked about. And then there's also talk that we do in the barbershop or in beauty shop. So I think that is a concern of mine. And so I'm reluctant to make a statement really, because to know what this particular forum is, because the discussion is either going to be a barbershop or is it going to be social media, because some of the things that we say at home are not really the things that we should be saying out in the street. And let's not kid ourselves. there is some real conversation politically that Black folks need to have, that is beauty shop, barber shop talk, family talk, that we actually need to have. And it's not necessarily just about Kamala Harris. It's also about Joe Biden. And so,
in family, it's kind of like a family conversation.
I yield the balance of my time to the Holy Ghost. Go ahead.
You want to reclaim your time later, huh? I appreciate that very much. And we get what you're saying. Absolutely. Reverend Tulis.
Well, it's so good to be here with each of you, brothers and sisters. Pastor Logan, thank you so much for having me. I want to say that just hearing our sisters talk has, really motivated me to continue in my efforts to do whatever we can to get Biden and Harris elected. I mean, I can't imagine 4 more years as we are living right now. As Lori threw me under the bus, no, I'm just playing. As Lori shared, here I live here in Los Angeles, California. I have not been a big Kamala fan. When she was, I met a young Kamala, and she was away for San Francisco. She moved to the state attorney general seat to our Senate. When she was the state attorney general, she didn't do much when it came to police accountability and other areas that we kind of pressured her to do. She was more pro law, which I mean, that's just the way of time. Sometimes the swing pushes you in that realm. So, but she's always been friendly. She's always been a sister. When she was elected to the Senate, the big piece was she's the first Indian-born Indian American elected to the state Senate, and that's the message that came out of her office. But through all that, I mean, she's a sister. She went to Howard. She's AKA. I mean, she's just as Black as you can be. I mean, every time I met her, she's just a down-to-earth sister, And at the end, when I got word on my birthday that Biden selected her, I immediately, always try to check the posts of the community through my social media, through my woke brothers. But I'm with Sister D. Dawkins, Reverend D. Dawkins Hagler. Those that woke, you need to go back to sleep. I'll let her continue in that, but I'm with her on that because, I just can't understand how is it, even with Biden becoming the nominee, reading the comments of individuals that's not, in support, that was Bernie supporters, that was this and that. I was with Pastor McCorn. I wanted Biden, Elizabeth Warren, the grandma ticket. I felt that was, but I mean, hey, they gave us Kamala, so that's our future. That's the future of our party, and yesterday I was very proud just to watch her articulate, just to watch her, just speak. I mean, I'm not moved like I was with Obama. Maybe it's a brother thing. I don't know, but I don't know, because I love my sisters, but I know some pretty articulate sisters. She was articulate as she can be on yesterday. She stood, and I saw something in her that I never saw. And, at the end, I'm excited because, as these sisters said, Kamala said she pulled out her card yesterday and made a donation. I watched my wife do it too yesterday. So it's some sort of excitement, and seeing on the television.
It's real. It's palpable.
$26 million in one day. I mean, that's amazing. So this is a new day, new time. I know she has a record, but who doesn't have a record? I mean, they keep trying to throw the crime bill at Joe Biden, so at the end of the day, I think, again, regardless of her record, I think she's the right choice at the right time And I'm excited because the thing, she's not no pushover. And she's gonna make sure she stand her ground and hold her ground. And for the president to call her ugly and nasty, all those words, you know, I was proud she did not respond back to him, because at the end of the day, you know, those are all baiting points that he has specialized in doing. So she's a strong candidate. She's the best we got to offer. And, you know, I'm proud and I'm excited. And I'm going to pull out my credit card at the end of this and send my little donation.
Send your million.
my little donation.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Homeboy and classmate, R to the S. Scott's got it.
You read my stuff all the time.
Talk to you, man. Talk to me.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. I just want to preface this. I may have an uncontrollable lisp. I'm doing veneer work, and 2 days ago I got a tooth removed in front, so it's been hard for me to speak. But my perspective, man, it was fear at first, because I'm here pinning a book right next to me, and the book is called The Age of Aquarius. And it has a lot to do with the woman returning to the spiritual hierarchy. I acknowledge the Holy Trinity as being the man, woman, father, mother, and child. Original. And my book is kind of based on that. It's a book about now, which really scares me. And I've been in depression because I got 80% finished and COVID hit. So I had to go back and kind of write COVID back in, because first of all, let me preface this by saying, I love my Spellman system. But engineers love doves. Only 2 of you know what I'm talking about. Got a dove out there. But Kamala was my first choice. Because of my book, she was my first choice from the beginning. My very last, as a president, my very last choice was Biden. And Louis, you know, I judge a president on, I'm a Pan-Africanist. I judge anyone running for president or office on where you stand on Black reparations.
Yes, sir.
I want to hear where you stand. I don't care where we go with it, but tell me where you stand.
I got you.
Because Biden and Bernie's first responses were just like Trump's and McConnell's. They politic their way back, but that's neither here nor there. I support Biden. I love the fact that Kamala's there. You were in one of my groups, Louis. I told that group that you cannot post any anti-Kamala or Biden posts until after the election. I'm not going to let you, Black people, hurt our situation. Being woke, that's a little too woke. I have 36 mentees, and they range from now 21 to 23. These are kids that I coach, that I stay in contact with, and I get their perspective. And their perspective is really, they look at social media too much. They're being too influenced by social media. So what I try to do is, when they say she's not Black enough, what do you mean? She's not Black enough. Let me tell you that if you take the history of the San Bushmen, when they migrated out of Africa 90,000 years ago because of climate change, they went east out of Africa. One of the first garrisons created was India. There are Dravidians there that are darker than we are. They are the first subculture of Africa. And when you go all the way to where they first stopped on the first migration, you're into Australia, Tasmania, New Zealand. Those Aborigines have African blood. Everybody on the face of the earth carries the genetic marker of the
from Africa. That's it.
She is African on both sides. Plain and simple. That's the way. That's how I feel about it. The woman returning.
You done gone Nile Valley on us.
I'm like this because I've been penning this book, and I'm like, it's all coming to play. When I got in that depression about COVID, I had to think back. This is God. He stopped the world. People make reference to Jesus as paying the price. Well, God gave us another example. George Floyd paid the price.
Man.
He stopped the world, and we all had to watch. And we sat back and we watched
a crucifixion.
That foot on his neck in the Minneapolis police code, that was a lawful tactic. And to add pressure to it, that's how it's supposed to be done. So when they go to try this thing, it's going to be something. It's really going to be something. That's why I believe in defund the police. At the same time, fund a more well-educated and better trained force.
Sure.
That's what defund the police stands for. But Kamala, I love her. I've already seen how, in my perspective, we need to get away from old white men. Reagan was too old. Trump has come in and let us know that he's fading. I see in Biden not the same Biden that he was of the past.
Sure.
Kamala has his back. Do you see how she handles that? How she's handling she's gonna eat Pence alive.
Oh my God. She will eat Trump alive.
Excited.
Yeah.
This woman upstairs, my wife is an AKA, so she's all excited. Hey, go ahead.
She gave $1 million. She gave $1 million too. You better watch your bank account.
Ooh, let me tell you. So I'm excited because in this pandemic, I got a chance to incorporate 2 businesses, and this book where it's flowing is scary because I actually needed Kamala to become president to help this book along. But with her becoming vice president, I'm right with it. Ain't nothing done by mistake. God don't make no mistakes.
My goodness.
We're here. We're stopped. We all have to pay attention. We look at social media, we look at television, and we can't help foreseeing God actually show us. Show us. He's actually even taken the enterprise of church or of religion and stopped it. Everybody pay attention.
Well, he says it more traditionally. Absolutely. I appreciate you, man. You see, Lester took us back to the Nile Valley.
Oh, come on, man. You know, I'm
Cyrus,
spiritual. I'm not all that religious. I was raised that way. I know the Bible, but I am spiritual.
I ain't hating on you, brother. I was grateful to go back. I was grateful to go back to Osiris, Isis, and Horus. I appreciate you.
Yes, and let's take it back one step. Osiris is Osar. Osiris is the Greek representation of Osar.
I got you.
Aset is the Greek representation of Isis. So I don't want to go Greek. I'm going African. You know I'm a Pan-Africanist. And Horus is Heru.
That's it. Let's make it happen. I appreciate it.
All right.
Absolutely. You can't go no more than that. Ava DuVernay, filmmaker, said the debate is over. It's almost like it's over before it started. She's like, there's nothing else to talk about. As you have just said, Kamala's going to eat Pence for horse divers and have Trump for the main course. It is over. Let me go to Reverend William Smart, president of Southern California SCLC, and then Dr. Nanaji Jackson, who is with us from San Francisco. Reverend Smart, good to see you, man. God bless you.
God bless you, Pastor Logan, and all of these esteemed guests here. I'm sorry, I just kind of saw the text. Dr. Tulis and I were out there protesting on another issue, and then I had some other issues going on. But I'm just running through. I have something at 4 o'clock, but I just really want to pay respect and honor to what you're doing here. As you know, I've been I'm a little different on this issue. I have a button that was given to me in October that said Biden Harris. And if you look on my Facebook page, I posted it 20 minutes before they made the announcement officially. I just have believed from the very beginning, even though I got stumped when they put Karen Bass in the mix, because she is somebody I'm real close to. And so, but they're both were Southern California women. And I've been following the career of Kamala Harris for a while, like Tulis and you. We've met her, we've been in rooms with her, we've done business with her in various capacities. And you know, like any elected official, they don't always do everything we need them to do, number one. But, you know, what they do, you know, this is a ticket that is part of, I look at them as part of a movement that can straighten up the Supreme Court, a movement that can straighten up voter suppression, a movement that can again put in the government controls that Obama had put in, that they can put them in, that can really help it's all, for me, I like what a lot of the other panelists have said, and for me, it's all about the marginalized, the vulnerable, and the disenfranchised. What are you going to do for them? This ticket will do more for them than what the White House is doing. That speaks volumes for me. Yeah, and so as a Christian pastor all of my life, and being involved in presidential politics all of my life, I have to look at that in the tradition of Martin Luther King, that what are you going to do for them? And what are you going to do for housing? We had sat down with Biden and we had talked to him earlier about these things during the primary. So really and truly, this is, you know, the November 3rd is a day we all go to work. When it's a Biden Harris administration, we go to work because we have to keep them in check. We have to make sure that they enforce them for an agenda that deals with, again, the marginalized, the vulnerable, and the disenfranchised. And you know, that's it, y'all. That's it. You know, it's never done for Black folks. We are going to struggle every day, and we're going to have to fight. But I'm telling you, we are going to have to. It's going to be a lot better working with them, fighting with them, struggling with them than it has the last 3 years with this fool we have now. God bless you.
Incredible, incredible. I appreciate that. Dr. Jackson, thank you so much for being with us. And thank you again, Reverend Pastor Smart. I know you have to get off in a minute, but I appreciate you. If you can, just stay on as long as you can. The next conversation and talk we're going to have is how do we get engaged from here going forward? And then how do we hold in tandem what we see as what's happening with the Democratic Party in tandem with what a Black agenda should look like? Because I think all of us would agree that in spite of, and as has been said, the African-American sisters have always been the backbone of the Democratic Party. I'm thinking Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm thinking, oh my goodness.
Shirley Chisholm.
Shirley Chisholm, absolutely. You know, call the names. You call the names. I mean, so I mean, it's beyond. It's my about time. It's beyond. It's about time. So that's a perfect segue into Dr. Jackson. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Nnaji.
Thanks for having me. It's so good to see all your beautiful Black faces.
Absolutely. A Howard alum too. A Howard alum too, huh?
Not an alum, actually. Well, I'm an alum as a professor. I taught political science at Howard.
Yes.
And wished that I was an HBCU alum, but I fixed it by going back and teaching.
Okay.
So that I could create the kinds of people that are on this call right now, actually. I want to also say hello to Pastor Smart and KW Tulas, my homies from LA. So I have a couple of things to say. The first is, you know, many people don't know this, but I was a political science professor for 25 years.
All right.
I've served as a human relations commissioner for the Los Angeles City Human Relations Commission. And I started my career as a White House intern under Jimmy Carter in presidential personnel. And so I kind of know what the inside looks like, but I also know what the outside looks like. I've been churched all of my life. I'm third generation Seventh-day Adventist, although I did get emancipated from that and got my freedom, and now I'm non-denominational, but still a Christian. So I'm writing a book too, Brother Scott. And that book is on the role of Black ministers on the issue of reparations.
Wow.
And I'm going to come back to that at the very end of this brief moment that I have here. So I live in Northern California now. I moved here about 3-4 years ago. And I understand Northern California politics now better than I ever did before. So soon to be Vice President, Senator Harris is born in Oakland, which is 3 blocks from my house, and raised in Berkeley. She is not the most popular person among people that look like us in this region at all.
That's right.
And particularly Black men.
Yep.
And we all should know why. If we don't already, it was because of her role in sending so many of my potential husbands, right, to prison. I mean, you know, one of the reasons that there are so many single, sharp Black women is because the system has deliberately separated us from those who would be the fathers of our children and the husbands that we would pursue life with, right? And so I cannot pretend that that didn't happen, that she didn't play a role in that. And she did marry a Black man, but I don't fault her in that. That's her business. You don't know who you'll love. You don't know who God's gonna send you. But personally, I'll take a chocolate brother anytime. Because I believe that we're in joint struggle with our Black.
Sip some water on that one.
Okay, we are in joint struggle against the same enemy. We pick cotton together, and we should be in the White House together. That's just my position. So
we built it together.
Yeah, we built this whole country together, and so I believe that we should be able to remain together. But that's her business. America should be ashamed anytime they're calling a Black person the first anything in 2020. In 2020, we should not be having the first Black anything. But I'm glad to see it come to pass anyhow. I predicted that as a political scientist, I predicted that it would be Kamala really is the pronunciation of her name, Kamala as VP, Karen Bass as the person who takes her place in the Senate, and Javier Becerra would go become the US Attorney General. Remember that we're engaged in coalition politics, and we cannot leave our brown brothers and sisters out of this discussion because we are all in this together. So keep an eye on what happens with the state attorney general here in California, because he's going to play a major role in this. Why are you giving me the thumbs down to us? We'll come back to that. And I say that because I have experience with AG Becerra. I was actually one of the directors of his campaign when he ran for mayor of LA. I am a specialist in coalition politics between Blacks in Los Angeles. So let me just say this, now that we've talked about Kamala just a bit. Kamala will be powerless unless the Black church does what it has not done yet. So I don't mean any harm. Y'all know I love you to pieces, but the most silent voice I hear is Black preachers on the issue of reparations. If the Black church doesn't ask for reparations, we are not gonna get it. We are as ripe for it now as we ever were. But if you preachers don't step up and tell these white folks that you need to give us what our ancestors have already worked for, we're not going to win in this country. And I'll tell you why it's important for the preachers to do this, because then you won't have to work so hard in the pulpit lifting an offering. If they give us reparations, you know I'm right. Just think if we got reparations in cash, or we didn't have to pay taxes. Frankly, you don't have to give me 40 acres and a mule, although I would love to have real estate. That's the most important thing to own in America. You don't have to give me cash money. But what if you just pay me back all the taxes I've paid in my lifetime? If you don't want to do that, don't charge me property tax. Don't charge me income tax. and don't charge me sales tax for the rest of my lineage, can you imagine how much of that cash can go into the Black church to do the work of the Great Commission? And you won't have to ask anybody and beg anybody for their 10% tithe that they know they're supposed to return. They'll be happy to do it, especially if you have made a way for them to give that money back to the Lord, not to the church, to the Lord, right? So I think that you are some of the most activist pastors I know, and some of the most activist individuals who could actually make this happen.
Absolutely.
Especially you, K-Dub, in LA, you can do this. And so I'm writing a book on that issue, because it is conspicuously missing from our whole political debate.
I think you've just reached where we want to go in terms of putting this within the larger framework of a Black agenda. It is my estimation that in spite of who's in the White House, in spite of who's in whatever position, Black faces in high places, ultimately we've got to operate not from a standpoint of being limited in our options and afraid of who's in whatever position, but we've got to be founded within our own agenda in terms of what we are discerning is needful for our communities. And so I want to ask each of you, I mean, what do you expect? And I always say it like this, voting for someone without having had an agenda-based conversation is like sitting in the barber's chair, going back to what Reverend Steele said, and not telling the barber what you want done, or the hairdresser not telling her or him or her what you want, and then they just shave it all off, and then you're like complaining because you bald-headed all of a sudden, but you didn't say what you wanted before you got in the chair. But they sure have their hand out expecting you to pay with the money. So what are we saying we anticipate and expect? And because I do think that all of you are exactly correct in terms of this being a very pivotal moment, 1, for African-American women, 2, for the African-American community, and 3, in terms of what Dr. Jackson just said, in terms of the whole issue of reparations. So let me kind of open it up, and let me just kind of let the conversation flow.
Let me add this one thing quickly. It is interesting that the first Black president of the United States and the first Black VP of the United States are both individuals who are not descendants of enslaved persons. That is by design. Kamala has enslavement roots in Jamaica, of course, but not here on this land. And that is by design. And I'm all down for both of them, and their heritage is beautiful. But they can't ask for reparations in the way that you and I can. And that's by design. So if these preachers would say, look, Kamala, look, Biden, look, Senate and House of Representatives, give us our money now, run us our money now, so that we can take care of our own issues and we don't have to keep looking to government to do what it should have never done in the first place.
All right. I appreciate that.
I think that's a twofold question, because what are we going to do?
Right.
We expect government, and having worked for 2 mayors and lobbied in the state capitol, the expectation is always, what are you all going to do for us if we put you in office? And it's never that, what can you all do to help me be impactful and successful in my candidacy? And so then we have the discussion of, well, you didn't do anything for Black people. And so I still go back to what I posted this morning, because I think I had just hit the edge of the conversations, was we have got to mobilize, like we have got to come together and strategize. And the problem remains is that we do not take the time to commit to a strategy, even if we don't all agree. So I think that until we strategize, until we mobilize, because we haven't done that yet, then we strategize and then we can change policy. And so we are all out of order. We are all at the end of the order. We're at policy only. We don't want to mobilize. We don't want to strategize. It's supposed to suddenly appear. So my expectation is that I'm going to commit to still stay engaged in the process more than I ever have. But my also lesson is to teach young people that you have to commit to something. Like, this is not something that we're going to do or change overnight. At the same time, we have to also say, we are putting you there, but here is the strategy, and here are the people that we expect they're going to help you carry it out. Two people cannot manage the entire agenda for us. And we've got to stop that. We have to, and then I think the second piece that I really wanted to talk about is the reason why enslaved people have not put up a candidate is because we go back to a morale issue. If this person is not perfect, we dig and dig. Well, they slept with this person. They went into a foreclosure. We do a research to tear that person apart and not look at, is this really an influencer and a social change and a social justice person? And so it is always going to be that they will shop outside to look for the perfect candidate, which there is no perfect candidate to put up on the agenda. And so I think that that goes back to what is expected of our community to help them get this agenda accomplished. They don't really have an agenda right now.
So you're saying we need to do for ourselves. It sounds like you're.
I'm committed to say that we need to start inwardly. And then to work our way into an agenda that we can give to a candidate. Like we talked about, someone said, you know, I'm just tired of the Black elite. I'm tired of all of, you know, and I just said, well, wait, let's stop. Where have we created tables of conversation to strategize? Like, I'm still looking for that to happen.
I understand what you're saying.
I mean, let me say that first of all, I'm just been so enriched through this conversation, and Dr. Jackson, you really have given me a different perspective of things I need to be demanding, especially as a pastor. That's going to be my number one demand is reparation. Appreciate that. And when I was doing thumbs down to our Attorney General, I just have a problem with some of our Attorney Generals today. I think Javier Becerra was a great congressperson, but I think sometimes they just be a little weak. I understand your friends and your buddy. So when you said Attorney General, I was just like, you know, that's what popped in my brain. But I mean, I think he'll be a good one though. But at the end, I think we do need an agenda. One of the things that Dr. Logan has always pressed to me when I was running NAN, now I'm the president of the Baptist Ministers Conference, is that we need to make sure we give them our agenda. And I think we're at a place now, whereas I believe the Biden-Harris ticket is going to, Black folks are going to go out in droves to vote. And I think it needs to be a universal message, as Dr. Jackson was just sharing, in reference to demanding reparations. I mean, don't give us nothing, we earned it.
That's right.
At the end, I think it's something that we can really put on the agenda. I think if this is, I mean, we let a Black man become president, and we never talked to him about reparations. We never heard him discuss reparations. I mean, this is the time. And as I listen to Dr. Scott and Dr. Jackson today, I think that needs to be a central focus, and that needs to be an ask and a demand that this is something. If you can find $3 trillion for stimulus of America, you can find $3 trillion to give every Black man dollars or whatever it might be, and do this the rest of our lives. You know, so I mean, we need to really come up with an agenda. I'm looking forward to hearing Dr. Jackson, reading Dr. Jackson's book, and hopefully we can have some more dialogues like this where we can start pressing that, because I think now is the time to say we want and demand our reparations. We don't want it. I mean, we don't want to give it to us. We earned it. Give it to us. Now,
if I can support what both of you guys said, reparations. I mean, we had let's go back to our president, POTUS 44, Barack Obama. There was a 2-year period right in the very beginning of his tenure where he had the Senate and the House of Representatives. So he had the backing then. And that was the time that he could have stepped up and requested reparations or mentioned it. As a matter of fact, I remember that time because I'm such a reparations guy. If you Googled reparations, every article that came up was a right-wing article saying that that's what Obama was going to do. He's going to ask for reparations. I think we need to define what reparations are. And what I do all the time is I define what reparations are because it's easy, or reparations is, I don't know how it goes, but easy to say no. It's easy to disagree. It's if you don't know what we're asking for. And as you guys said, we earned it. Reparations isn't everybody getting a paycheck. It can't be. It's easy. We see that it's easy to finance. We saw, if you take Georgetown University, those people at Georgetown University decided to give reparations to the slaves that were sold to keep Georgetown alive. It became, let me get the number right, $78 per student every year to support reparations for that family class. Just $78 a year. And what they all get is all of their descendants get to go to Georgetown free of charge. $78 per student, every student, undergrad, grad school and all. They finance that. With us, reparations come to us, in my opinion, in a form of 0% interest loans in mortgage situations, and not loans, credit lines, 0% interest credit lines for businesses, small businesses, subsidies to farmers. Think of what they did to the farmers just recently when they gave them the bad seeds. You know,
and farmers who lost their land over the years.
Absolutely. Put them in a situation where all of the food that is produced for these agricultural companies, they're now coming out of, Southern California, farms in Southern California. Who's a better farmer than a slave? They took it from us. If they had put Black people in a position where they were giving land in the West, the Dust Bowl would have never happened because they didn't know about turning the crops.
Like George
We've
Washington
been
Carver.
cheated all the way around, generations of disenfranchised people in Baltimore, the red lines in all of the cities. We all lived within those red lines. We weren't allowed, even if you had the money to buy a home, get the credit that comes from having a mortgage.
And those loans should be guaranteed by the federal government as well, bruh.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like the FHA loans.
Defining what reparations means to us, how it's going to come back to us. There are going to be some people that aren't in business. There are going to be some people that don't need mortgages. There may be some payouts that certain people get because of their age or whatever, but we deserve reparations.
All right.
We put you in office. Our agenda, that's number one on our agenda.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Dr. McCorn or Lori and Dee, anything?
Yeah. The unfinished business of the civil rights movement was reparations. People want to lift up the colorblind domicile Martin Luther King image, which was first. Dr. King, at the end of his life, had become so disgusted with white supremacy and that he was leading a poor people's campaign that was demanding a guaranteed income. But if you remember the beginning of the I Have a Dream speech, have come to this
cash a check.
To cash a check.
Come on, teach.
Are insufficient funds.
My goodness.
That's the unfinished business. And so that's where we need to begin. And I lament every day the death of George Floyd, but George Floyd has been a sacrificial lamb for what could be the resurrection. Right? This
Right.
could be it. I mean, white folks have, their eyes have been opened in a way that never been opened before. Now understand how structural, they don't fully understand. They're beginning to understand how structural racism works in America. And the only way you can fix it is economic justice. That's really, and that's, so to your question, Dr. Logan, what do we need to demand from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? Is economic justice, which includes reparations, right? But I don't think reparations is the end all be all.
Okay. I think
it'll just be a temporary fix. It'll be a Band-Aid for a little while. People will grow weary of it. We got to change the system. So it should begin with reparations, but it shouldn't end there.
I'd like to call for the order of the day.
Let me let me go to Lori and Reverend D and Terica for your comments on what you hear and what you think.
Well, I absolutely agree. Reparations should be number one on our list.
Okay.
In my opinion, we should go in strong. Now, what it looks like, that's the conversation. Okay. And like my sister said, we need to strategize. You left one word out, and that's organize. We have to organize in order to get people to that table to strategize conversations that we need to have to show what we want it to look like. My sister Jackson, it resonated with me in terms of taxes and loans for homes, setting us up like white folks have been set up since day one.
No question.
That's what we need. We must demand it. We must demand it of Joe and from Vice President Harris, but it's top of our list, because if we get that, then we can springboard from there and do what we need to do.
Absolutely.
Perhaps look less to government and look more to ourselves.
Exactly. Reverend D, Terica.
Concur with everything. I'm good.
I agree with what's been said so far as with the reparations and economics. I want to add to the housing part also. Not just the loans, but the price of your home. We know that in the African-American community, the price of our homes are dramatically lower than other parts of town. We know that when we move in to that
property values plummet.
The property value goes down because of white flight. I saw it in my neighborhood. When we moved to my part of town where I live now, it was an older white community, and slowly but surely it has changed over time. The houses that were once owned by, they're still owned by whites, but they're now rental property. You know, the family, the elders have passed away, the children have it, they don't keep it up, and I think it's intentional. Because our house sticks in the middle and we remodeled, but it's not gonna get the value of what it was remodeled for. I have a neighbor 2 doors down. She put a lot of money into a very nice starter home that was an older house. And when I saw it on the market, I was shocked at what she was getting as a sale price. She was going to have to sell her house at about $50,000.
Wow.
When she should at least get 80 or 90.
And those evaluations based on nothing other than ethnicity.
It's most probably ethnicity, because I've been told by a realtor that I'm working with right now that if you're getting ready to sell a house, change all your picture frames. Take all your pictures out. Have one of your white friends come in, give them the key, let them show them around. either take all the pictures out or keep that generic photo in there so they don't know it's you, so you'll get the price that you deserve for your house.
Such a game.
And we shouldn't have to go through all these hoops to advance if we want a better house or we need to move to a different location. Another thing we also need to look at is education.
Okay.
Of course, I'm a teacher. Part of what I think lacked during the civil rights movement is we asked for integration, but we didn't ask for anything else. We didn't really push further to know what we wanted when we integrated schools. And so we came in at a disadvantage. You know, my parents, I'm the first person in my family to attend an integrated public school. My parents were both from Black schools. They went to HBCUs. My mom did her graduate studies at a predominantly white college once it was integrated, and I graduated from that same college. But you know, there were some things that, you know, before me that children didn't have. When you're looking at children coming to an integrated system, they had the leftover books that were missing pages. So we still need to work on that. And we not just need to work on it in the school, but we've got to work on it in the home. We've got to also look at the community. Sometimes we look straight to the White House, but we don't look down the street to City Hall.
At our house as well.
And, yeah, we don't. And I'm guilty of that. I'll watch the meetings on Facebook or whatever, but I do keep in contact with my commissioner. When I see something going on, I'll hit my commissioner up more so now than I probably have in the past, and let him know what issue I may have. So we need to not just look at the White House for all our answers. We got to look at our communities too.
Absolutely. Let me, and I appreciate what we're saying, because we're looking more at, you know, we're pivoting in terms of our conversation as we look at both the hope of a Kamala Harris vice presidential prospect, but also at the responsibility that we have to champion our own cause. However, I'd like to ask you and press each of you, and then we're going to kind of close with this. It's almost an hour and a half. Where are these conversations taking place? Because I just don't believe that it's not happening. And I need for us to kind of help each other identify where these conversations are happening and where we can get connected into that movement for a Black agenda. So I'm just gonna, each of us kind of chime in, and then we're gonna get ready to close out. Where are these conversations happening? And this is just a part of, initial part of our conversation. Now, hopefully, when I text you all again, you'll be willing. I may not be able to, I've been kind of critiqued for having too many bright geniuses on at the same time, and it's a little untenable to kind of juggle all of this, but I just believe it's an initial conversation that is, I think, ongoing. So I appreciate very much you all's patience. So let me just kind of open that up. Where are these conversations taking place, and how can we get connected?
The first place is they're taking place, they are taking place in the church. And there used to be a time when, I know in LA, you know, church, you go to church on a Sunday and then you go and eat, or you go downstairs to the basement and eat with the church members. You know, you fellowship and you have these meaningful conversations, and you address what needs to be put on the agenda, and then those things get taken to this decision-making tables. That doesn't really happen much anymore in the Black church. There's a lot of apathy, but you know, that's our most powerful entity. Whether you're Christian or not, the Black church is still the most powerful entity in the Black community. So we need to utilize that. You know, this is definitely not the time to make the decision to abandon using the Black church as a space where we have these conversations and we come up with an agenda that we put on the table of the larger society. And we let them know, look, as Sister Lori said, this is the first thing we need, and we're not backing up off of it. This must happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the Black church is the first place, and then in people's homes. You're in my home right now. We're having this discussion in our homes right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I want to add to what she just said.
Okay.
I produce television shows, entertainment shows at a independent TV studio here in Atlanta. And what I've been introduced to is non-network TV. We have DirecTV upstairs, and then I watch streaming TV.
Sure.
I'm a smart TV guy. But I got introduced to with smart TV through my daughter, who came home one time and told me she didn't want cable in her room with smart TV. And what you get on smart TV is these podcasts. So we, after the pandemic, we took our living room and our studio is in a condo. That's all we do. We do TV out of there. And we took our living room and turned it into a set, a podcast set. And then we installed our Roku box so that we could broadcast right to Roku. And we have a YouTube channel.
Wow.
Where right now, like I said, God has dismantled the enterprise of religion, of the church. We can't go. So we're waiting to do this in church. We don't know when that's going to come back. I like what we have here. This can be done en masse, even if it's in pods.
Mm-hmm.
These things, what he has here is the beginning. It's your first show on a YouTube channel. And I hate to be so money centric, but 10,000 subscriptions, 100,000 subscribers on a YouTube channel gets that channel $10,000 a month in pay. I know because that's what we do. And I've been following these kids. I've seen this tall guy, car reviews out of Los Angeles. All he does is review cars. And they talk and they this and they that, but they're making money by getting together and doing these videos. What we have here needs to go on our our YouTube channel, because other people need to see these perspectives, whether they agree with them or not.
Right.
Easiest way for us to reach a large amount of people and the right people is to do these podcasts, because this is a podcast. Do these podcasts, put them on a YouTube channel so that people can go and go back, and we can keep informing the people. That's about the best thing that we can do right now until God brings us all back to normal. And whatever that is. The church, and we can use the churches the way they're supposed to be used.
And I was going to say, I don't know a time when I didn't go to church. I'm a long time AMEer, probably longer than I want to admit. And so, you learn your social justice platform from being an AMEer from a child. But I will say that because of the future generations of kids don't go to church. My son is very focused. He gets up, he'll watch it on television, but that is not where he's going to have a discussion about what happens in the world. It's going to be a discussion that I hear with his friends, and it may be a lighter version of it because I'm listening in, eavesdropping. But I think that why I feel like my generation and older have used the church as a platform to get the agenda across, I feel like our kids are just so unfocused from systems. And so the church is seen as a system. And so we have to get them really in a place that they feel comfortable to talking about an agenda item. And it cannot be, and I really would like for the platform to be, as you said, the YouTube, because my son watches no television at all. He is a YouTuber.
Son too, no television.
All YouTube. He doesn't care about a show. His focus is, how did that person become successful and how did they do it? I'm going to YouTube. And that is the basis of how he gets a lot of information. If in fact I don't impose a reading tool for him, but I think that we have to capture the essence of this time with young people, because they are not set to have an agenda conversation if it does not happen over social media or at a YouTube level. So I propose that it has to happen in sections. So of course I would go have my talk with the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, which I'm affiliated with. We sit at the discussion tables at AKA, but I really think that we have to be focused on the fact that everybody's not going to come to a church to have a discussion.
Yeah.
And that we have to create some other venues to have those discussions. And I'm really hoping that some of our African American organizations would have a real town hall, like in but we have to get in the mind frame that we're going to have to come from very unique places to get this agenda accomplished.
Absolutely.
Let me going to have to change and become a dialogue and not a monologue anymore. If you're going to get this next generation, they're not here to be indoctrinated
and lectured to. They have something to say as well.
Well, you know, let me say that I'm loving everything that I've heard, but I do agree that the most powerful entity in our communities are our local churches. I believe that the conversation might be different. We're not allowed in our churches now, but I believe that, from my church perspective, we're reaching more. And so within the realm of it has to be part of our dialogue. It's not a 10-point sermon on, voting, but it's a discussion. Reasons why so many of my members enjoy seeing me out on the front line. They love seeing me out, bring a little righteousness to the cause. In Los Angeles,
yes, we do.
When the Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter here in Los Angeles was birthed through a rally that I put together. And so at the end of the day, I think, again, they are doing things differently. My son is 14. He doesn't look at TV. He doesn't look at watch his YouTube and everything else. My daughter, who's 6 years old, all she does is watch YouTube. So within the realm, I just think we need to just think of areas how we can, develop some content, as Dr. Scott just shared, of him producing TV show. How we can develop content that's really itchy to our children, that's attractive to them. And I think we can utilize the church as that aspect of that discussion. Through social media, things that we're doing right now. So I think we're all on the right accord, but I'm sticking with the church.
And as a pastor and as a Christian, I like to think as a Pan-Africanist as well, and a diasporic brother. Is continuing to evolve, continuing to reach back. And I have the Sankofa and yet the reimagining going simultaneously, that we have to reimagine what church is. I do agree that it's not a building. I think that this right here is church. I think that the church is almost like what our brother Q, Marie talks about, Reverend Q. It's in the street, church without walls. And so in homage to what what Dr. N is saying, I think church is the type of transparent and it's spiritual and secular simultaneously. The two are not incongruent, and we have to be able to create sacred space where both the spiritual and intellectual are not in combat, but are in concert. Unlike the type of rejection of science and the ignorance of spirituality that we've seen, that has bankrupted the country and put this country in such a very cataclysmic and chaotic moment. It is at the same time a tremendous opportunity of disruption for us to really push the type of agenda we have today. Has everyone had an opportunity before we get ready to close? Because I think you've put your finger right on it, that conversations has already started. You've already seen them. You've already helped to begin to engineer them. We just have to take ownership of it and be intentional about it. and then also listen to our children who are speaking to us, who are leading us in some very important respects, and who are causing us, to open our eyes to see just new ways of doing old things. And then, we have to continue to evolve, as we're hoping that even Kamala Harris is evolving in her perspective and in her politics and in her policies. And so all of this is kind of us growing together in a sense as we go together. Has everybody had a chance to?
Dr. Logan, just one
Yes,
other.
sir. Yes, sir.
Right. Historically, we know what the Black church has meant to us, in tandem with Black colleges.
Yes, sir.
We have got to capitalize on the intellectual capital.
Yes, sir.
Spiritual, cultural capital of HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
And with the elevation of a Black woman who's an alumnus of Howard University,
mm-hmm.
have got to take advantage of this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it was already beginning to happen. I mean, they were beginning to talk about HBCUs in a different light. I think those institutions are going to go to a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
So church, Black college, those are the two anchors.
And that's interesting that you would say that, because there have been a couple of star athletes, for instance, who have opted out of going to, what do you call them, PWIs or PIW, is it PWIs? Predominantly white institutions.
Yep.
And have opted out, have said, I'm doing HBCU simply because they recognize what Dr. Roden, who writes in his book, $40 Million Slaves. He says that we have to begin to recognize our own value and take that value and parlay that into and put that back into HBCUs. And I'm just so grateful for what parents, and I think it goes back to what all of you have been saying. I think that reparations is not only what we demand from others, but reparations is what we freaking demand for ourselves. It's what we give to ourselves when we recognize our own self-worth. We don't look for someone to give us that value. We need to recognize it in ourselves. And so it would be tragic for me if my sisters looked at what happens with Kamala Harris and think that they've reached the zenith of being in some way or another appreciated and respected. I believe, however, that our sisters are queens who have, oh my God, built civilizations. Who have the scholars, the mothers, the teachers, the first teachers, among the first teachers, the griots of our ancestors, of our mothers, of our people. And so therefore they are the repositories of the stories. And they have also, survived the Ma'afa. This is a very powerful moment. And I want to thank you all for being a part of this conversation. If you know of other tables and conversations like this, hey, let's continue to mix it up. And I look forward to the possibility that, we'll have continued conversation in this respect. Thank you for just your willingness to have the Kamala conversation and being leaders in your own respect, in your houses, in your congregations, among your families, with those who you struggle in the streets, and in your respective fraternities and sororities and organizations, and churches, of course. So the conversation continues. And let me thank you. Please share this, and let's maintain conversation going forward. Anybody have anything else they want to say before we go?
Louis, I wanted to put a name to that, what you were speaking about, the young man. His name is Mikey Williams. He's like he's the top guard in the country.
Yes.
He's going to be coming out in about 2 years.
Right.
He has committed to Howard University. Yes. And not only has he, now a bunch of other Black kids, like never before, he's played against in AAU, they're committing to Howard too.
Wow.
And I mean, that just excites me. But
there's back to what Lester was saying.
There's a podcast that I challenge you all to watch. It's called Expeditiously. And it's by the rapper T.I. T.I., he's a rapper here in Atlanta. He's brought on people like Dr. Claude Anderson. He brought on Jane Elliott and had a wonderful session with Jane Elliott. So he's gone from the rappers into the space that we're talking about.
Okay.
Now he and Killer Mike, Morehouse Man, Killer Mike, those guys are powerful in that, Keisha, Mayor Keisha we have here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
she was going to lose. We had 6 hours and she was losing to that white woman.
Wow.
They got out onto social media and told every one of the guys, whether they vote or not, go get your grandmothers, go get the old ladies out of the neighborhood. We're going to supply the vans, got the vans, and got people out. Keisha won by 7 votes per precinct.
Wow.
Because of the Hip Hop Nation. Now, when this COVID thing went on, 500 packages of food to people. When they ran out of food that they were giving out, they started giving out $500. These are rappers.
Wow.
They also renovated their whole community that they came from, the hood, and they knew that they had to gentrify it. Because if it was going to make it in these homes that they're putting there, they're going to raise them from $80,000 homes to $200,000 homes. We're going to have to re-gentrify to keep it going. These are young guys. They're rappers. They're now in their 30s, but we can't shut them out.
Right.
Watch their podcast. See where their heads are.
Okay.
Many of them are more educated than you think.
It's
about this sports thing. I taught at Howard, and I taught in the football classroom. Why was I teaching political science in the football classroom? Because the classrooms in Douglas Hall, where my discipline is located, were so raggedy, and there was I had to buy my own chalk, bring my own pens, the whole 9 yards. There was no Wi-Fi. The football classroom was the only one that had Wi-Fi and a screen that I could pull down and do any kind of up-to-date
multimedia.
So these young men, I'm concerned because I know firsthand, I have developed some of those football players. It concerns me that these guys are going to get to Howard and not have the support at all that they ought to have. And I'm not talking negatively about Howard. I'm saying that the athletic programs at our HBCUs are not ready to absorb the students who would have gone to Stanford or somewhere else. So we have to work on making these institutions better and more capable of absorbing these exemplary athletes. Because we do a great job at creating elected officials and doctors and nurses and dentists and all of that. But we have work to do on the athletic side, which is what we say we want.
All right.
But I think that ties back into the agenda of the fact that we do not, all of us, I've graduated from an HBCU, do we support them after we leave? After they make us these great people, do we actually contribute
back into them?
Howard alum is strong, they do.
Yeah, that goes back to, what we have to do in our community to address that. That is not a response. Well, now I will take this back. There is a shared responsibility of the government and the alums when it comes to an HBCU.
Right. Absolutely.
The alumni has to tell these institutions, we're giving you money, but this is what you must do. You have to add mandates to your giving.
Yeah.
That's true. And that goes back to
these kids help the institutions though, because where the money comes in from those white institutions, football, basketball, and television money. If you bring these better athletes to these black schools, you're going to see the billions that are coming into these white schools because of black athletes.
Yep.
The prowess that they offer brings the money that can be redistributed into upbuilding those communities. Let me thank you all again. We got to close. The conversation continues. We'll be in connection in the interim of our next conversation. I want to encourage you to continue to prepare yourselves and grow. And thank you so much for being here this evening. God bless you. Love you all, my sisters and brothers. The struggle is real. Let's continue to do what we got to do. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blessings, everybody.
Dove love, Miss Green. Dove love.
Y'all take care.
Bye.
All right.